Hey, everybody, welcome back to Too Many Men. My name is Alison Lucan, and it is the best time of year, one of the most overused cliches in the entire hockey world, but here we are. I am, of course, with the gorgeous, the stunning, the Bruins insidering, Sara Civian, who just, if you missed it, go back and listen, had, as always, an incredible cameo on the Dan Le Batard Show. It's on YouTube. Check that out. I was shocked, Sara. You got a little bit of a mini lecture from Dan Le Batard. How are you?
I know. I'm rattled. He said, I can't keep saying, I don't know. And I don't even realize I do that. It's like when some people say like or literally, sometimes I say, I don't know, but have an opinion. So then I just kind of went off about my opinion that, yeah, I do think the Bruins are going to win the cup, but we'll get into all of that lovely stuff later.
The joy of someone having to tell Sara Civian to have an opinion is just a gift that keeps on giving. We, of course, would not be Too Many Men without the return of our gossip girl, Shayna Goldman. She's back. Shayna, say hi.
Hi, I'm back. I'm ready to rip. I've been waiting for this return, and here we are, all big news. People keep asking.
You're
it's
getting
not
too
about
big
the
for,
games.
You're getting too big for your britches. Now you're saying more than just hi. You're breaking the rules left and right.
Breaking the rules. I just want to clarify something. People are like, are you going to do this for playoff games and results? No, that's not how this works. I don't care who wins and loses games. This is about news and talking shit about decision making. That's all we care about.
You care about who wins and loses. Don't even start with me. That's not true. All right,
Gossip
my
Girl
friends.
Doesn't.
All right, my friends, let's get right into it because there is a ton to discuss. We are, of course, recording this on Monday. You'll get this on Tuesday, but we're giving you, just like everyone else in the freaking world, a look at the NHL playoffs. But before we do that, Sara, what time is it?
It's time for Bit-O News.
Bit-O News. Let's start with some of the most exciting news in what has become the internal grudge match in the evolving and egalitarian becoming world of women's hockey. The World Tournament, the World Championship wrapped up on Sunday. It was, of course, USA Canada, but let's be very clear. There was a lot of compelling hockey going on in the other matches. Don't think that this is still just about USA and Canada. They did meet in the championship. Hilary Knight gets a hat trick. And yes, people, to be clear, that's why you throw hats on the ice when a player scores 3 goals. Saw some questions about that. Not really sure what that was about, but here we are. So Hilary Knight scores a hat trick and helps propel the U.S. to the gold. Shayna, you are our women's hockey expert. What stood out to you in terms of what Team USA was able to do after a disappointing showing against Canada in the last major tournament of not only just the rivalry series, but also the Olympics?
Yeah, it was a really good game. And like, I know like the cliche of like game of inches, it was that. There were momentum swings. It was so tightly matched throughout the entire game. But we learned a couple things, like USA can not move on, but USA can embrace the next wave of players to support the veteran core because we keep seeing more and more roster turnover. But we still have to respect the greatest, Hilary Knight, and how incredible she is. She hit 101 points at Worlds. She scored a hat trick to do it. She was the game changer. And it was so impressive to see that tying goal, how she was slamming her stick on the ice. She knew what she was going to do, and she really put the game on her back. And, we were impressed by some of the risks, right? We know Canada embraces the power kill. USA with a 5-forward unit for a 5-on-3 power play was a risky play, and it really paid off. So impressive win for USA and a big battle back in that third period.
I also loved the swagger of Hilary Knight's celly when she scores the third goal. She just raises her arm. Very cool. Like, yo, I got this. Sara, I know you were traveling yesterday. Were you able to take in any of the women's final game or any thoughts there?
No, I'm happy US won, but yeah, there's just been a lot going on the day before the playoffs for me. So I've had to kind of just focus on the playoff coverage and other things.
Absolutely. Well, we're glad that you made it back to be with us. We have now, as is tradition this time of year, Bit-O News is often about a lot of front office and behind the bench changes based on what a team did or didn't do in the regular season. As the postseason draws near, we'll have a lot more time to talk about who we think is going to take over for some of these spots, but let's just hit the high points of some people who will no longer be in the roles they were in. Let's start with the Pittsburgh Penguins, who basically cleaned house except for their coaches, which is another interesting commentary. Mike Sullivan stays, but the Penguins announced that they have relieved President of Hockey Operations Brian Burke, General Manager Ron Hextall, and Assistant General Manager Chris Pryor of their duties. That came after the Penguins, who were in control of their destiny, failed to make it into the season. We've talked about how they were limping in as it was, and we weren't even really sure this was a team we wanted to see in the postseason. Sara, did these front office moves surprise you in any way, or was this a step that was needed?
Yeah, I mean, Hextall has been a very, very polarizing figure in Pittsburgh, and for a good reason. He really messed up. I mean, he did keep the band together of Malkin, Letang, and Crosby, but that's not good enough. You have to do that and then figure out the goaltending, which has been, ever since Marc-Andre Fleury and Matt Murray left, just kind of passive. Like, they haven't really sought out anybody. They just were kind of like letting Tristan Jarry and the other guy handle it. And then, which his name begins with a C, forget exactly who he is. We'll figure that out. But I just think,
Smith, but he's not important. We don't need to care about him.
Exactly. The other guy. But just some puzzling decisions when they already had like a cheat code in Crosby and Gensel. Like, just be better.
Shayna, did anything surprise you about Pittsburgh's choices, or are you surprised that Sullivan sustains while the front office, the rest of the leadership group, is now gone?
It's always an interesting decision when the team doesn't fire the coach. And sometimes it's a good thing because management can come in and say, hey, we want to keep our coaching staff. And I think with Sullivan, that could be particularly true because it did feel like Sullivan was pushing back against some of the decisions management made. And I think he's one of the better coaches. So I want to see what happens if a better, management group can come in and kind of like work with him. But on the other hand, like, it does suck if they intend to get rid of him. Like, a new management group might want to bring in their own coach, rightfully so, and it leaves the coach hanging and waiting, and then they might miss out on opportunities. I think if Sullivan does get fired, though, he'll be totally fine. It's not the same as some other circumstances, but it's not the worst decision, I think, keeping him, because he actually is a pretty good coach. Is it surprising they fired management? No. The only thing surprising is going to be what direction they go in. I'm really interested to see if they actually build up their front office like they have for other teams that they own. But this had to happen. Like, we all knew this was coming. It could have happened sooner.
And they, of course, that Shayna is referring to is Fenway Management Group that took over ownership of the Penguins, and it's been a ride so far. As we
was always bizarre from the front to the back. Like, why did they take over them?
100%. All right. There was one other big front office change, and it was announced Monday, right as we were about to record. So we thank you for your timeliness, Calgary. But the Flames and Brad Treliving have mutually agreed to part ways. Don Maloney has been promoted to president of hockey operations and will also hold the position of interim general manager. And I've got to tell you, if you haven't seen the picture that accompanied this tweet and the press release, like, I feel like they're always throwing shade at these people. Like, in this picture, Don Maloney looks like, what? So congratulations to him, I guess. But Sara, I know you're a big fan of the mutually agreeing to part ways. Was this the right choice for Calgary?
Yeah, definitely. Because when you don't know what to do, you put a lot of blame on the coach, which we definitely have. But at the same time, the coach is kind of his job to take the blame of what the GM has done or hasn't done. I think clearly, even though we were all disappointed in the Flames and they did make moves, sometimes being active isn't always the best thing. And these players, for whatever reason, just took a really long time to get it together. I mean, it's not his fault. Markstrom took a step back, but at the same time, I do think they need a fresh set of eyes to figure things out. I mean, I guess they're not getting one because they're just promoting somebody, but just for now. So we'll see.
Shayna, I'll ask you the same question again. As of right now, the head coach still has his job, Daryl Sutter, and there were some interesting moments that we've talked about with him this season. Do you like that role staying consistent while the front office makes these changes?
It's going to be a no from me. I have been anti-Daryl Sutter from the start. I think that he did some good things last year, but I think this year his coaching really, I think a coach's voice can get stale, and it feels like his very much can. And also, like, the defense and the lack of offense, and management did so much, and this is what they got. So it's really interesting too, because like the Flames, it feels like the Flames and the Jets are the two teams with their management groups that it feels like they've been the most cautious and quiet over the years. And finally the Flames do something, And then a year later, it's like, well, we're done here. But it does feel like they could use a new direction and just someone to like spice things up a little bit. And that should happen behind the bench as well. I think anybody new coming in would see that's a problem. I get the winning and the championship caliber and the name recognition, but like, let's face it, if you're starting over, this feels like a coach to legitimately start over with.
Let's move on then to the coaches who did unfortunately end their tenure with their respective teams. I'm going to read out the list and I'm going to ask each of you to comment on the one that stands out most notably to you. The Blue Jackets did relieve Brad Larson of his duties after 2 seasons with Columbus. Anaheim says goodbye to Dallas Eakins, and Peter Laviolette and the Caps mutually parted ways. The Blues also fired 2 assistant coaches. And I have to laugh because an item we've had tabled on our agenda for forever is Peter Laviolette going to continue in Washington? And now we have our answer. But of those 4 changes, Columbus, Anaheim, Washington, and then St. Louis, Shayna, which one is most interesting to you in terms of what happened and where the club goes now? Pick your top one.
It's going to be the Capitals because it did feel like they were getting to this point. Again, another mutually, parting ways, which is like a good way to like save face for the coach and for the team in a way, instead of firing someone. And obviously if their contract's up, like, what are you going to do? But it just feels like Peter Laviolette goes to teams and sometimes he's a fit to start. And then by the end of his tenure, he's not, which is kind of natural when you look at like the cycle of coaches. But it just felt like things really started to come to a head this year. And you saw the things about like Orlov not wanting to resign and then Orlov criticizing usage of, I think it was Alexiev. So that one stands out to me. And if I can add one note about another team they're not interesting, but I just think something to watch.
Not interesting.
Look, they're the Blues. I don't like their head coaching situation. I think that's someone who's like worn out his welcome. I'm intrigued to see if he stays and the assistants change. I think we need to learn more about the impact of assistant coaches. The Devils are a good example of it. So if they change only the assistants, like for me, I'm just saying like, let's watch and see how that changes things or doesn't, because I don't think in a lot of cases we know enough about what assistants do.
Sara, which one of the changes stands out to you? Do you agree that it's Washington, or are there other notes of interest in some of these firings or terminations?
Well, Laviolette definitely, I've never liked him as a coach, honestly. And the way I did back in the day, but I feel like you don't really fire like a tenured coach. So that's a little bit of a surprise, but I guess something went into that decision. What can you do there, right? I'm not going to say the Caps season was a disappointment, but you just expect them to make the playoffs. So I don't know. It's just interesting to see which route all of these different management groups go to when they're doing their end of the season disappointments, sweep ups.
And for you, Alison?
For me, I mean, I will now say, because you brought up the point of interest, I think that what intrigues me, I'll go with the Blues, because I'm with you. Like, it's interesting to see that you say certain people are responsible, but not other people, when there's so much connectedness between the points of responsibility. And I think different head coaches handle assistant coaches' roles differently. But I think that that's a very intriguing look when you say, well, the people who support me in executing my vision aren't working, but I'm fine.
Yeah, like, are you only a people manager and they're purely tacticians and the tactics are wrong? Like, what? It's like we don't really get to see it until that assistant becomes the head coach, which is what happened in Columbus.
Right. But also Columbus, the roster was not. I mean, that's a whole nother ball of wax. But
they kept the wrong Brad, but that's a whole nother thing.
Well, no, listen, on a day when people lose their jobs, we don't.
No, I'm not.
We do love Bradshaw. We do love Bradshaw. Speaking of where Bradshaw is now, however, usually we have to spend some time talking about the shit list, but we are pleased to today, on this eve or day of, I guess, of the playoffs beginning, to bring you an anti-shit list item. And it comes courtesy of the Philadelphia Flyers head coach, none other than John Tortorella, who, as he has done historically through the years, he has been sitting up in the press box for some games this season. He's also known for bringing deserving parts of his staff out onto the bench for final games of the season. He did that in his last game in Columbus. But as reported by Jordan Hall, Justin Braun's father, Paul, was on the Flyers bench Justin Braun was playing in his 842nd career game, and it was potentially, and most believe will be, his last. But what a really cool moment to say, I'm going to recognize the importance of this time for these humans. We know the game ultimately doesn't matter. I just think this is another sneaky good move from a coach that we all like to laud, although sometimes he does misstep, but a good move here by John Tortorella. Sara, what did you think when you saw that Torts did this for the Braun family?
Yeah, he does a lot of like under the radar things, you know, like, and there's a reason why some of his former players have loved him so much. It's because, yes, he is a hard ass, but then he has like a heart of gold.
Shayna, what did you think? We stand Torts.
Yeah, friend of the pod, Torts. Even if he doesn't know yet, but like at least friend of Alison, so therefore friend of the pod. But you know what? It's like, this is a player he's only coached for a year or two, so it does impress me a little bit. This isn't someone he's had on other teams and known forever. Like if he did this with, say, someone like Ryan Callahan after coaching him for years, I'd be like, sure, okay, totally clicks. But it just shows, I think, a way that he connects with this team differently. We all jump at the quotes and it's like, oh, they're all shit. Oh, I didn't find anything redeeming, and no one gives them a chance to, you know, like go a little bit further. It's just like the little things like this that I do think matter. And it's why, you know, I think it's part of the reason why he keeps getting jobs too. Everyone keeps asking questions. Like he tries things that are different and he does things, you know, to respect his players at times. So
at times.
No, it's true though, because he does bench random people. He is like, it's a very interesting process that he has.
Everyone will just point to the Duclair thing. I think it's so funny how many people continuously point to that Duclair situation of him calling him out in the media when they just don't look at the entire situation. And it's like, and that's not, I like Anthony Duclair as a player. It's just,
yes, for sure.
It's so easy for everyone to just jump down his throat instead of like watching the situation evolve to get to that point.
Absolutely agree. I love the point too, that this shows how he does invest in getting to know what's really going on with the players that he coaches. Really cool moment there.
All right, dogs. We can't forget that. The respect for the dogs.
All right. Here we go, my friends. It is time. We're going to rush through. This is the busiest, craziest time of year. It's also one of the best times of year to be on the West Coast, because I will get to watch all the hockey and still be in bed at a reasonable hour in theory. But the playoffs kick off today, Monday, the 17th. We're going to go through all 8 series, and we're going to try and do it a little differently, because by now every podcast you listen to has done their dissection of who's going to win and why and this and that. But here's what we're going to do, my friends. We're going to go series by series, and I'm going to ask each of you to comment on which part of the game you think is going to be most impactful to deciding the series. Your options are offense, defense, or goaltending. Are we ready to blaze through the NHL?
Yeah. Sure. We're totally not going to fuck this up.
Oh, no.
Never.
Never. We were such rule followers, followers.
I love structure and rules.
All right, kids, here we go. In honor of Sara's wonderful appearance on the Le Batard Show this morning, we're going to start in the East, and we're going to start with a series that she is not only covering, but is near and dear to our Le Batard family and friends. That is Florida versus Boston. Florida sneaks in. Alex Lyon has clawed their way back in. And now we get a report this morning, as Sara already reported on the Le Batard Show, that there is a sickness working its way through the Boston locker room. Sara, of our 3 options, what is going to be most significant in deciding this series?
I already want to go against the rules and say people's small intestines, because, oh my God, it's like Bergeron's out, Ullmark's out, but that has all the makings to be a very special game. If they win, then it kind of is emblematic of their whole season, but I digress. Goaltending. Ullmark needs to be Ullmark and set the stage for the rest of his playoffs. He's had an incredible regular season, but we all know it's a game of inches in the playoffs, especially for goaltenders. And we haven't seen him in a playoff game before, have we? Yes.
I don't think, yes. No.
Okay.
Unless he played it all last year. Did he come in relief at all? Maybe, but he did not like Buffalo.
Not like this. Yeah.
Not in
he was
a
never
starter.
a starter. Yeah.
So he has a big shoes to fill. And then you have goaltending on the other side where, I mean, Lyon has obviously clawed the Panthers back. And now we have to see, is the happy-go-lucky thing going to work for them? What will they do if not? And what the hell is going to happen there?
All right, Shayna, for you, what's most decisive?
Defense. The Panthers' strength is their offense. They are one of the best offensive generators in the league. They're one of the worst at finishing their chances. Now you have to get through Boston's defense, which is the best in the league at even strength, and they have a perfect penalty kill. I feel like we can't forget that, and we saw how deflating the power play was for the Panthers last year. So if the Panthers can't cut through that defense, that's going to be the problem for them before they even get to goaltending. And then on the flip side, you have the Panthers with one of the worst defenses of the postseason. They're different from last year. They're not playing the same run and gun style, but Boston has an elite offense and Panthers goaltending might be shaky. So I think defense is going to be the difference. What about you, Alison?
Well, I'm actually going to go with Sara. I'm going to go with goaltending. I think that these are tests for players who have been huge parts of their team. And this is when we have that cliche of everything wipes away from the regular season. And we see what you do when the pressure is on. Sara, who is your pick to win this series and how many games does it take?
Bruins in 5. And I know I've been really high on the Panthers getting in, but the Bruins are just too damn good.
Shayna?
Boston in 6.
Okay, I am going to go Boston in 5 also. All right, let's move on. Carolina Islanders. Sara, this is just the Sara Civian start to the show. Carolina Islanders is another series that you were talking with the Le Batard Show about. This is a team that you know excessively well in Carolina, even though it's evolved since you last covered them. What of the 3 elements that we have is going to be most impactful to this series? Carolina Islanders, go.
Goaltending. I mean, Carolina is starting with Ranta, who I love him and I wish him the best, but you got Freddie Anderson. He has taken a step back this season. So I get the decision, but Anderson is somebody that gets in his head. So I think not giving him the game 1 nod, it's like, okay, be prepared to not be able to go back to him then. And I do think Kochetkov will end up being the guy there. They do have some options. So maybe start with Ranta and then have Kochetkov get ready. But then you got Sorokin on the other end. This is just, I can't wait to see what he's going to do.
Shayna, your pick.
Offense. I think these 2 teams are actually kind of evenly matched defensively, and then the goaltending could be the difference. But the thing is, like, these are 2 teams that play that chip and chase, grind it down, forechecking style of play that we know goes well in the playoffs. So you have 2 teams that are like built to thrive in the postseason. So it's a matter of who's going to get by with more offense. The Canes are going to have a tougher time against the Islanders goaltending, while the Islanders have less offense to go around to get through the Canes defense. And the Islanders have a healthy forward group for the first time. You know, when they got Horvat, they had Barzal, he got hurt. They brought in Engvall. They never had it all put together. So now they do.
I am also going to go offense, but I'm going to go more so from a point of concern because obviously Svech is out for the Hurricanes. I've been on record as not liking how they've wrapped up this season. There was not a lot of goal production coming from them. And as we've talked about, they're going to need that to break through the Islanders goaltending. So I'm going to go offense because I want to see if Carolina can still produce it at this point. Sara, your series prediction for Carolina Islanders and number of games.
Canes in 5.
Canes in 5. Shayna.
Islanders in 6.
Ooh, interesting. I've had like 3 brackets and I've changed it every single time. Like it's just for shits and giggles.
This is the one series I haven't really changed. Like the second I saw the matchup, and yeah, the Canes always kick the crap out of the Islanders in the regular season too. I don't think it fucking matters.
But you picked the Islanders.
Yeah, but they swept them in the.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like that
care.
doesn't matter. I think you get to the playoffs and the Islanders are a team you don't want to match up against.
Fine. I'm going to go Carolina
in the playoffs
6.
Before.
I'm going Carolina in 6.
They had the sweep and then reverse sweep.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Next series in the East. Shayna, you're up first since this is happening in your backyard. And I know you are passionate about this one, although you don't care who wins. So supposedly Rangers, Devils, what's the biggest deciding factor in this series for you?
It's going to be offense again. It's because the Devils are playing a style that we don't know is going to work in the playoffs, right? Can they play their rush-based style, especially the fact that they're inexperienced? If they get bogged down, are they going to change their ways and then just completely throw away everything that made them successful in the regular season? And can they play that style and then beat Shesterkin versus the Rangers, who have the offensive edge on the power play by far, but at 5-on-5 aren't nearly as good? And, you know, they have a tougher defense to go through, but worse goaltending. So I think that might be like the big difference right there, especially with the Devils' resilience. We know that when they're down in games, they tend to just come back and, you know, strike back offensively. And when they're ahead in games, they're really good at running away in it.
Sara, Rangers, Devils, what is going to be most impactful? Offense, defense, or goaltending?
Offense. These power plays, are you kidding me? You got Patrick Kane and Tarasenko for a reason. They better perform on the power play.
Short and sweet.
That's it. Drop
there
the
it
mic. That's literally it. Like, okay, let's see what they can do.
I am, for all of the reasons that you both have made, going to then flip to be different and say defense, to see who can keep the other quiet. I think particularly with the Devils and that young gun, fast game that they play, and all the motivation and all the narratives of these two teams being so close together. I think it would be very easy for a team's defensive game to get loose, and this just becomes a track meet. And so I'd like to see defense respond and control the other team and win the series outright the right way with a complete game. Sara, who wins this series and how many games?
Devils in 7.
Ooh, Shayna?
Rangers in 7.
Oh,
it's going to 7 no matter what, and we all know it.
I think the experience takes over once you get to 7. I think it's the experienced team with the players who have, you know, like I never go for that kind of thing. And I'm like, that's the difference. And goaltending.
All right.
Yeah, but there's brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh my God. Did you see how great the first NHL goal for Luke?
Yes.
Overtime game winner assisted by his brother. Such a great little narrative. I love it. I love it. I'm going to go Devils in 7. Devils in 7. All right, here we go. Our final Eastern matchup. You knew we couldn't stay away for long. Sara, how does this affect the Leafs? Tampa Bay at Toronto. This is not the Tampa Bay team we're used to seeing, but it still is Tampa Bay. Can Toronto finally do it? Which aspect of the game decides this series for you?
Offense. I think you have to get it past Vasilevsky, and it's just been so problematic in the playoffs in the past for this Leafs team. Matthews isn't having his best season, and you need some people to step up and figure it out. Love that.
Shayna, your take.
It is going to be about goaltending. I think last year we saw that be the difference. It doesn't matter if Vasilevsky's having like a below average regular season. When the playoffs roll around, he is the best around. And last year we saw that be the difference in game 6 and 7. Like the Leafs had so many shots and it just felt like they couldn't finish their chances, and it really got in their heads. And when you look at it, you know, the Leafs have Samsonov. If he deals with any sort of injury, they're going to be in trouble versus, you know, a Tampa Bay Lightning team that is not at their best. And I think Vasilevsky's had his toughest workload yet, and he's performed with his best season to date. So that does impress me a lot. And when push comes to shove, you know, in his last, what is it, like 8 elimination games, I think it is, ahead of, with the last one being the Eastern Conference Final last year, he has like 17 goals saved above expected. He's allowed just 2 goals against. Like, this is someone like that do or die. I think that's the edge for Tampa here.
I am also going to go with goaltending, because while I know that Sara's choice of offense is based in sound analysis, I'm so sick of the narrative that's the lazy version of, oh, William Nylander, Mitch Marner, and Austin Matthews all suck and they clench all up when they have to go into the postseason. I'm sick of that narrative. So I'm going to go goaltending also. And particularly on Toronto's side, there's so many questions and people are talking about it, but I can't believe people are not like screaming and waving their hands in anxiety over it. Like, this is insane. They don't even have like a reliable NHL proven goaltender that's healthy to do this. So that is going to be my pick. All right, Shayna, Tampa Bay or Toronto, and in how many games?
This is the one I've gone back and forth on the most. 2 of my dogs went Lightning. 1 dog went the Leafs, but she really doesn't know what she's doing. So I'm going to have to go with the veterans. Zuki and Kona both said the Leafs in the Lightning in 7, and I have to go with them.
Okay. Sara?
Leafs in 4. I'm not
Oh.
even kidding. I think
That
this
is
is the
a
perfect
take.
time. I think this is the
Could you
perfect time for
imagine
them to
this
do it.
Lightning team? The last time they got swept, it was to the Blue Jackets,
Mhm.
who beat
Exactly.
Toronto too. Like,
Exactly. They can.
Shayna,
I like
Dan
this
would be so
matchup for
proud of
them.
your certainty. He would. This is the art of the take, as he was educating you, and you've learned it immediately.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
He's doing spicy
4.
right now.
I'm gonna go Tampa Bay in 6.
if the Leafs win in 4, Drake doesn't have a chance to fuck it up after game 5. So maybe you have a point there.
No, I just think if they are going to win the series, it's going to be in 4 or 5 games because they're not.
It
if
can't
they let
be,
it
it can't
linger,
go to 7.
we know what
Buzzsaw style.
happens.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Let's swing over to the West, my friends. And again, I know there's a lot of hockey, but I will seriously repeat my point to please take in some of these West games. The races in the West have been really interesting, and there's some fun stuff happening with these teams. I know there's a lot happening these first 2 weeks of the playoffs, but try not to just base an assessment on a stat line or a final score.
Get your coffee, get your tea. These are the series to watch. Like, I'm so tired of everyone being like, oh, but it's too late. Shut up. It's the playoffs. Deal with it. Be fucking tired tomorrow. Watch the goddamn games. There's so many good ones.
Okay, so let's start with the least interesting.
I feel like I know which series. Which one are you going? Are you going with the Dallas Minnesota one?
I am going with Dallas Minnesota.
I like this series.
Okay, here we go. So here's the thing, and we've talked about this. I always forget Dallas exists, even though I think they're a tremendously interesting and exciting team, and Minnesota is just boring. Anyway, Sara, Minnesota, Dallas, which of our 3 parts of play are going to matter most?
Offense, because these teams in the past have had trouble scoring, and now you got Robertson. I am really excited to see what he can do against a team like Minnesota. Minnesota's going to need to score more goals, like point blank period.
Shayna?
Offense. You have 2 teams that are so tightly rated defensively. I think it's one of the closest, like, by the numbers. And then you have really strong backends. The Wild have 2 good goalies. The Stars have Ottinger. Like, there's a lot to like there, but offense is the difference. You have 2 teams with top power plays. You have the Stars, who used to be a one-line team only, and they've really built on that, versus the Wild, who lack offensively consistently. And then you factor in the fact that they're missing Eriksson Ek, so their center depth is even weaker. That's going to, challenge them. The Wild finally had 2 lines clicking. You had Kaprizov's line and Boldy's line, and now without Eriksson Ek, you have to wonder how the Boldy line is going to fare in the postseason versus the Stars, who actually have 3 lines that can produce offensively. Like, that, I feel like, has to be the difference maker.
So for those reasons, I am going to go with goaltending. I think that Flower is still a player who can steal a game. Ottinger, we've seen what he can do too. And I do kind of love those narratives for both of those players, especially. So I'm going to go goaltending in that series. Sara, your pick for the winner and the number of games is?
Dallas in 6. I do think the spread out scoring has really been a difference for them this year, and I think they will continue it.
Shayna?
Dallas in 7.
I am also going to go Dallas, but in 6, I think. That's where I'm going. All right. Boring hockey aside, sorry, we love you. Let's start to get into some spice. And we have Seattle traveling literally as we record almost to Colorado for their first playoff appearance. It was announced that while Colorado expects to have players like Cale Makar back, that Gabriel Landeskog, who has missed the entire season, is not going to be seen at all in this campaign, but they've been doing it without him. So we'll see how much that matters. Seattle at Colorado, first playoffs against defending Stanley Cup champs. Shayna, what part of the game matters most to you?
This is a really tough one because I feel like there's 2 very clear ways you can go. I'm going to go offense because for me, when I look at the forward groups too, in particular, it is the matter of star power against depth scoring. Which one, runs away with it? Generally speaking, in the playoffs, it's all about the top of the lineup. Yes, it helps to have, 4 scoring lines, right? Like, everybody talks about that, but it's like the top of the lineup tends to be the difference maker. So let's see if Seattle, it's such a good test for them. I love this matchup because it's the question we want to know. We want to see answered. Can a team with 4 scoring lines with a ton of scorers, move ahead of a team with star power. And here you go, perfect team to do it against. So I think that's the difference, especially when you get to like the power play aspect of it. Seattle's power play has struggled, and the Avalanche have one of the best power plays around.
Sara, we forgot to mention that Andrei Burakovsky is definitely out, most likely for the beginning of the playoffs for Seattle. So that's a piece of star power missing for them. What part of the game is going to matter most to you for this series?
Yeah, that's a huge bummer for them, especially what he's done in postseasons past. I think goaltending. What do the Kraken really have? And with a young team that is so high scoring and so fun, I just feel like it's going to go in the other direction where they're going to have to just make sure that they can keep it in line there.
Love that. All right. I am actually going to go look at us rounding out the whole picture. I'm going to go defense because to Shayna's point, I think that the Kraken have to defend against not just high star power, but they also have to defend against such an active and offensively minded and effective back end in the defense. So it's going to be defense in terms of what Colorado can create from there. And then also Seattle having to defend against all of those weapons. This is one series where I am going to abstain from my picks, but you two do not get that privilege. Sara, who wins this series?
Oh, I really don't know. I think this is the hardest one for me. I have no gut feeling at all, but I'm gonna have to say, I think I keep saying different things on every single thing.
I know I do.
I'm gonna say Avalanche in 7.
Okay. Shayna?
I do love like the revenge series for Grubauer, and I think that he's taken so much shit and he's so much better than this, but I still am gonna go Colorado, and I think it takes 6 games. But like, I like the idea of the Kraken disrupting things, and who better to do that against versus like the reigning champions. We know the curse of losing in round 1 after winning.
Perfect. Well, obviously I have bias, so I cannot make a pick, but we will see how that goes. All right, my friends, the series that we all wanted to see, maybe not this soon, but it's part 1 of the many revenge tours that are happening in the West. And this is LA at Edmonton, 7 games. Edmonton has just been a buzzsaw since the trade deadline. LA has basically taken the steps in the offseason and at the deadline to counter the lessons they learned after falling to Edmonton last season. Sara, Kings, Oilers, what is going to matter most? Y'all have to watch the YouTube. The looks are priceless.
Tough. I think defense for both teams. The Kings addressed their defensive deficiencies. So did Edmonton, honestly. I think they both did a good job of doing that, but it's still, will it be enough? I don't know, but both of them have had historically problems this season with defense. So I do think seeing which side prevails, because we all know McDavid's going to do his thing, whether anybody likes it or not. Nobody can prevent that. So offense doesn't count. I just think defense is key here.
Shayna, your pick.
I'm going to agree with defense, because it's not about how you stop Connor McDavid. You're not doing that. And especially not when it gets to the playoffs. We saw what he did last year, and he's been, he's riding into the postseason on an even better regular season. But for the Kings, it's how do you contain that? And their answer is Anze Kopitar and Philip Deneau. You match them up 1-2 against, our friend Leon Draisaitl, and see how it fares. And, Kopitar's having an outstanding season on both ends of the ice. He's really bounced back. So, I won't be surprised if he's taking on McDavid. So it's going to be interesting to see, one, how LA defends. They got better at the deadline, like you said, and so did the Oilers. So it's a little bit more interesting. But it's how do you defend and stay disciplined if you're LA? Because you can't put that power play, you can't give them any chance. And how does Edmonton manage if they don't get as many power plays? So I think that's like the key to the series.
I love the discipline point. That's going to be huge. I'm going to go goaltending, mainly because we know it was such a question mark for the Kings, and they did go get Jonas Korpisalo, who is great, but has been a little bit up and down. Now he can go on a heater, as we saw in the bubble playoffs, but we're going to see that versus Skinner, who is obviously going to be the runner-up to Matty Beniers for the Calder. But we'll see how those two things shake out against particularly an Edmonton Oilers stacked offense. Sara, your pick for the winner. Which team survives this series part 2? You're muted, my dear.
It's a reverse of last year. Kings in 7.
Ooh.
Wow.
Shayna.
I just think they have the vibes.
Yeah, I love the idea of the Kings as a disruptor. It feels like there's like a lot of potential, but I have to go Oilers in 7. I feel like they actually had a good deadline and they actually did the right things that it should in theory pay off for them.
I'm here for the peak heartbreak possible. So I'm going Kings in 5.
Oh my God, that would be so spicy. I would be so here for it. Mika did pick the Kings to win it all, so let's see what she has. She's never done a bracket before.
I know it's a big, her rookie campaign could be huge.
Yeah.
She could be our Calder. She could
We
win.
are Calder. Zook won in her sophomore season. She picked the Blues. So and she had the Canes in the Final Four. So like she knew something. Mika didn't even know what she was doing. So we'll see.
But the vibes could be, she could be just connected and understand. She could know. I liked her decisiveness. I saw from the videos and the pictures I saw, it looked like she had no worry. She was direct and to the point in her choices.
Very different. She knows Paul, she knows sit, she can kind of do lay down. She does not know stay. We have not gotten to stay yet. So Rich actually had to hold her in place until I put the treats down. We let her go. But she, like Zook and Kona had patterns on which direction they were going.
See?
She was just everywhere.
No. She was not everywhere. She did not default.
Exactly.
I love
She
it.
was like, let's go. She picked the Leafs. She picked the Devils. She picked the Canes. She really went outside the box. And Zook and Kona watched over her like this fucking idiot.
Hey, my little Mika.
It was cute. It was cute, but they're judgy, you know.
If people don't know what we're talking about, go check out Shayna's Twitter. She has her dogs pick a bracket every year, and it's a delight. All right. We have one more series to get to. Sara, you are up first. And this is the Winnipeg Jets, who had been atop the Central.
Wait, hold on. We have a bit of news.
What?
Philip Gustafsson looks to be making his first career playoff start for the Wild.
What?
Interesting.
He's been excellent when he's played. And I feel like he could have his Jake Ottinger moment and really break out. But you look at what the Wild did last year, they went flurry when maybe they shouldn't have. When Talbot, I think, earned that, and then they switched too late. I'm really interested at this.
I'm here for this.
This is intriguing. We're here for the vibes. All right. One last series to pick. Wow, that has me shook. Winnipeg, who had
We need a breaking bit of news every episode. Come on.
We're probably going to have it. Winnipeg, who limped in after being so strong early, is going to go up against the Vegas Golden Knights, who seemingly just defy the odds every time. Mark Stone looking to be back. They're operating at full potency in all 3 areas of play. It does seem it's impressive stuff. Sara, which of the 3 parts of hockey is going to matter most in Jets versus Vegas?
Oof. Goaltending. I mean, you got Hellebuck, you got Quick and Co. And I think maybe Quick, I just see him coming in, and maybe I don't know how much he's going to play or what the deal is there, but I just see him like having the heart for one last little go round. Then you got Hellebuck, who could be a Vezina contender.
Friend of the pod. We love him.
Yes. And he has excellent vibes. So I think in a way, like both teams need to score more, obviously, but in a way that means the goaltending is more important.
Shayna?
This is a tough one. I'm gonna go offense. When we wrote the previews, I really looked deep into the numbers, and I felt like the Jets are the team I projected to be like the weakest link of the entire postseason. And I was surprised to see just how closely they rank to the Golden Knights. And it's almost in every category. Like they're similar in expected goals, but then the difference is actual goals. They're similar in this, but like every little area, there's something that separates them. And it feels like offense is the biggest difference between the two. Actually, no, goaltending is, I lied. But offense is a big difference between the two. And it's going to go up against 2 different goalies. Like you have the revenge series of Brossoit, because he's starting like already then, versus Hellebuck, who can like steal a series. But if you have Mark Stone and you have 3 forward lines clicking, that's going to bring the Golden Knights advantage up, I think, a lot more. They're really good off the rush, but they can also, grind it out. And the Jets don't have as much dimension to their offense. So I think that's going to be the problem for them. And they have some weaknesses against rush-based offense. So I think that's an opening for Vegas there too. So if Vegas can play to their strengths and their offensive peak, I think that they'll do enough to test Hellebuck to take the series.
I'm going to go goaltending, I think. And again, it's because friend of the pod, Connor Hellebuck, has just been elite. And we just think he's great up against that Vegas offense. And then the company approach, as Sara said. You don't necessarily know who's going to start in goal any one given game. This is one of the few teams that I think could end up breaking the narrative of you ride one goaltender the entire postseason. So I'm going to go goaltending in this one as well. Sara, your pick for the winner between Winnipeg and Vegas and the number of games.
Vegas in 6. The Jets might try. They just like don't have it.
They can't
to
take
me.
off.
Yeah, they're not. It's a water landing once again.
Shayna.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Vegas in 6. If it goes 7, I think Hellenbuck changes things up. I'm going to say 6.
I'm going to go Vegas in 5. How about them apples? Yes. All right. We end every episode with our favorite game, and that is Fuck, Marry, Kill. Today for Fuck, Marry, Kill, we are looking at 3 dark horse candidates to win it all and hoist the Stanley Cup at the end of 4 rounds of play. Sara, I'm going to have you go first. Fuck, Marry, Kill these 3 teams in terms of their ability to be the dark horse of the 2023 NHL playoffs. The Isles, the Jets, the Panthers. Hit it.
I'm marrying the Islanders because that would be so much fun, and it would make me be even more correct than I was when I said they're getting into the playoffs, despite everybody else roasting me. And I love to see a good goalie cook, you know. I'm fucking the Panthers because that's great for our podcast, great for the show. We love that. And I love to hear Dan Le Batard talk more about the Panthers and be forced to talk about hockey. And I am killing the Jets because it's just, they throw each other under the bus. There's not strong leadership. I'm just not feeling it.
Shayna.
Yeah, I'm fully agreeing. The Jets, to me, 1, don't have enough dimension. 2, the accountability between the players. I don't think the coaching has the answers. It feels like they backed in and they got really lucky that no one else was that good in the West. So I will kill them. I will fuck the Panthers. I think it would be so, it sucks for Boston because they've had an incredible year, but it would be so interesting to see the best of the best get like disrupted in round 1. Like that's the chaos we all crave, right? Then it really opens up the postseason. And I think that there's something to the vibes like their forward group brings and all that kind of stuff. I will marry the Islanders. The Islanders, first of all, Shesterkin and Sorokin are so similar. Like you have Shesterkin carrying the Rangers 3 rounds. We saw that. It's very similar. And now the Islanders actually have like the defense to back up the goaltending a little bit more than the Rangers did last year. So I think that can help them. And this is a team that it's like, get them to the playoffs and see what can happen every single year. Watch them go to the Eastern Conference Final. Watch them grind it out and play that like heavy hockey style that they have while still bringing offensive pop with guys like Horvat, Barzal, and now Engvall. I really think that they're a team to watch this postseason.
I think for just the second time ever in Too Many Men history, we are all 3 in agreement. Sara is shocked. She is shocked. Yes, I agree. I actually think that of these 3, the Isles are the most complete team. And I like how they've gone about kind of shoring up their attack for this season and then battling back as only Sara truly predicted, as we know. I think that would be the best story. The Panthers would be fun. And I do enjoy hearing Dan Le Batard have to talk about hockey. And I don't, to Sara's point, I don't love how this team is going in. I don't feel like they want it together. I don't feel like they're pulling for each other. And I do think that matters in playoff season play when it's not about trends. You don't have 82 games to define who you are. You have to define who you are minute to minute. And I just don't think this group is looking to define themselves as winners. There's too much else going on. So there we go.
They just can't come together through the turbulence. They don't have it in them.
Good job, Shayna. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Good job.
I'm really working.
I know.
I'm taking notes from how you do it. So, you know, I'm just trying to learn here.
I appreciate
I'm listening.
that.
I'm learning.
That's good. That's good. That's good. All right, my friends. Don't forget that you can follow us on social. We are at 2_much_man on both Instagram and Twitter. We'd love to connect with you there. We usually end every episode with me asking you to do something to make sure hockey is for everyone. And so I'd like to end this episode with a tribute to an important member of the Seattle Kraken and Seattle hockey community, Andy Ide, who we lost this past week after he suffered a stroke actually at a Kraken game in March. Andy personifies the value of hard work. He personifies chasing your dream. This is someone who never studied to be a journalist, but loved hockey so much and found and made his place And I feel like when you have a successful hockey community, you always have someone like Andy who loves the game and recognizes its importance and fosters it and champions it at every level, be it junior hockey, be it women's hockey, be it pro hockey. And he will sorely, sorely be missed. We are all luckier for having known him or been able to use his work. Please help live on his legacy, doing something to make sure this game thrives in all areas and that it includes all who want to be a part. We will talk to you soon.
Love you.
Bye.